Hello and welcome to day 4 of the week of game plans. Today we're going to be going over how to fight against Arizona in a standard game plan format. So obviously we're going to start off with the things that we think she has that are good, the things we think she has that are bad, and the things that we can do to try to take advantage of the weaknesses while covering up any of her strengths as much as possible. So let's start with her normals. Obviously, Arizona's normals are super stubby. I remember the first time that I was playing the story mode, I was having a lot of troubles connecting this launcher. It would be like, you would do like ABC launcher because, it's the first time I've run through. I'm playing story mode. I haven't really like done anything yet, and so I'm just like, all right, we'll just do ABC launcher, jump ABC, and then go down at ABC, and we'll call it a combo. And like 3/4 of the time when I would do that, it would just whiff, right? Like this move does not have a hitbox. So you have to be really careful. She has a lot of stubby normals, and she has a lot of ways to deal with that, of course, and headbucks and all that kind of stuff that you're going to be doing once you're at a higher level. But she has stubby normals. The point of that is that she has stubby normals, not that she can't hit you with her launcher. So just be you got to be aware that while she does have a great dash and she keeps on moving forward with the dash, so she doesn't have to keep on pressing dash to move forward or anything, she is somewhat limited in her move selection because a lot of these moves, they just you can get pretty darn close. That slowly moves her forward, but there we go. It finally hit, but she just misses a lot of her moves from this range, and we're pretty close, right? And this clearly is well within the threatening range of Oleander, and Arizona just doesn't have normals that do good things from that range. So we definitely have that, although she does have some ways to cover it up. Arizona does have to be a little bit more precise than Oleander while covering those things up because she just has less options. Arizona does have a great anti-air. The 6A is quite good. However, she doesn't have another good 2B anti-air button. So a lot of characters have got that 2B anti-air button, and they hit you with it, and you can stop cross-ups with it and stuff. And Arizona doesn't really have that. Obviously, her 2B isn't even close to that. And even this sweep, it might look like the animation sort of shows that maybe it would be going up all the way up to that horn slash, but it's not anywhere close to that actually. So you might think just by looking at the visual that her sweep would work kind of the way that a lot of the other 2Bs do, which is that she keeps her crouching hurt box, but she gets this big sweeping hitbox that goes above it, and that's just not the case. So while 6A is quite good, it is vulnerable to cross-ups, especially now because I believe they changed the hitbox so that it doesn't kind of just cover everything for her anymore. It kind of used to be pretty powerful universally, because as long as you got it started up before your opponent hit it, even if they were to cross you up, the hitbox was so enormous that it would just catch them most of the time anyway. And I believe that's been chilled out. So she has a strong but very one-dimensional anti-air, at least for dealing with jump-ins, and that's what we're talking about at the moment. And her jumping normals, none of them are super great. The jump B can be used as a pseudo anti-air, I guess, but it's kind of slow. It doesn't have that jump A startup, and the jump A is obviously way too stubby to even pretend that you're going to be anti-airing with it. This is the only thing that you might be able to use sometimes, and it doesn't seem particularly powerful since it's got B move startup, and while it does have a decent range to it, it's nothing to write home about. Pretty much this 6A is her only strong but situational and fairly one-dimensional anti-air. So she does have a good anti-air, but it's not incredible. Her anti-air game is kind of lacking in comparison to many of the characters we've gone through already. Next is that her neutral is aided quite a bit by her special moves. So Arizona has got a really powerful 12 frame half screen. So suddenly, from the range where Oleander wants to push buttons, Arizona's got a button with about the same amount of startup. The only problem is since it's a 2-move, you have to telegraph it a little bit or hide it with another move, which can be difficult to do. And obviously crouching and then pressing down afterwards doesn't do it. It's got to be 2 down inputs close to each other. So it's pretty tough. Like if you're really fast on the 2-2 motion like this, it's pretty tough to see it coming beforehand. You can kind of mask it to a point where it doesn't really change the speed. You're still not going to be able to react to a 12-frame move with 2 frames of startup animation that you can see or whatever. But this move gives her a situational but powerful option that allows her to hit from a pretty significant distance away, far enough that most of Oleander's normals still have to contend with the range of a very fast, very quick stomp in Stomp A. So that's sort of how, like, Arizona's got, like, very good specials. They kind of round out all of her major problems, and that's the first one, is she doesn't have a really good long-range neutral poke, but she does have Stomp, and Stomp can act in some instances as a decent neutral poke. Obviously, you can jump over it, whereas you couldn't jump over like an Oleander 5C, but nonetheless, it allows her to threaten from that range, and now Oleander does at least have to respect it. She also has limited air mobility. Of course, she has only super jump and short hop isn't really an air mobility move so much as it's a pressure move for the most part. Like, unless you're doing some crazy jump over the stomp read stuff, short hop isn't really like a neutral option. But she does have super jump, so she gets something. Her dashes are nutso, so obviously you can see she's right up there with the other powerful characters in the cast as far as her backdash goes. This thing is great. It's clearly better than Oleander's. And her forward dash still allows her to, after the beginning animation, crouch out of it and block out of it at any time, instantaneously, whenever she wants to after the startup. So it's quite powerful, and she's got really good dashes just in general. And even like you can see, even if we're doing like wave dashing, just the startup of her dash, even before the fact that it just goes forever for you without having to do anything, just the startup of her dash you can see is obviously quite powerful. So she has strong movement, as she should, as the brawler of this game pretty much. Then another one of her specials that we have to talk about are the D specials. So Arizona has got some very strong ranged command throw tools. So obviously she has got her 4D, which is going to be an anti-air, and that's really good. You can see the box there for a second. Let's see if we can show it. I don't think we're going to be able to, but you can kind of see that moment where it appears. You can see that it will actually catch a lot of Oleander's Tiger Knee sparks and stuff. If you're not super careful, it will catch it, and certainly if you try to double jump in order to make it safe, the double jump is going to put you right into 4D range, and if any part of any of your hurt box is in any of that hitbox, you get grabbed. So she's got a pretty significant donut around her worth of anti-air. And remember, when you jump in the air, you become a little bit more of a box. So instead of having some of this contour that you do on the ground, you'll see that the hitbox or the hurt box that you have sort of becomes a little bit more of an actual box instead of a couple of rectangles. And so that makes grabbing Oleander pretty simple. I mean, there's a pretty significant range where Arizona will catch that, because if any part of that hitbox is in any part of that hurt box, you get the grab. So she's got like a donut of power around her where she can grab from ranges that, again, Oleander may not necessarily even be able to hit, like her C buttons here, but Arizona threatens a rope option from there. And of course she has got the 2D for the knockdown, And so she threatens a lot of powerful grab options in a little donut around her. And Arizona has to be, or sorry, Oleander has to be wary of that range, because it's a range where like Arizona can actually contest and even beat some of Oleander's normals pretty reasonably with a fairly quick startup move that's going to catch sort of that like range where Oleander wants to dance around in order to threaten in neutral. So got to be careful about that. Of course, Arizona has got a lot of powerful armored moves. So obviously Headbuck being the biggest one. That thing has got armor, and it will just beat out all kinds of stuff and then wall splat you. And so you got to be careful as Oleander against that, because it can just kind of power through a lot of her options. She doesn't have a lot of like good multi-hit options. So there's some considerations there when the Arizona has got a bunch of magic and can chuck that out, because it's super strong, can lead into full combo. Great starter. I mean, it's just you don't want to be dealing with that. And then, of course, she's got her counter, and that counter puts her into a fully invincible state. So even if you have some way where you're able to hit the ground first or be able to block in time, that counter is completely invincible, +1 on block. It just lets her get in. Actually works against projectiles, so you have to be wary when throwing projectiles out, because she can kind of use that as a way to get in. And then, of course, she's got this full screen unblockable. It's got a huge startup, but even from full screen, you cannot be resting on your laurels here. You can't just be sitting here standing, throwing slow fireballs, waiting for the end of days if Arizona has got 2 bars of magic. Because if you do, she is going to catch you with that. So it's not a powerful anti-zoning tool by any means, but it can catch you if you're just like not paying attention, if you're not thinking about all of her options. Despite the fact that she's a brawler, she does have that option against you, and you do have to keep it in mind. And then I believe Arizona has got one of the few half circle motions in the game with her magic dash, which is just projectile invincible, can switch sides, has a low hurt box. If you saw it, we'll run it one more time so you can see the low hurt box there. You can see it's got a lower than crouching hurt box as it goes through, so it can beat a lot of moves that you might think should be able to hit Arizona there, even though she's not strike invulnerable. But yeah, it's powerful, and you can get through a lot of stuff with it. A lot of times Oleander's going to be able to catch that. If you just raw magic dashing through fireballs, that's not good enough. She's just going to see that and punch you in the face for it. But still, an option that you have to pay attention to, and there are times when it can go through, say, like a chapter trap or something that you were counting on as some sort of defense in neutral, or get her through to the other side of a well-placed epilogue, and so suddenly she is now in your face in a position where she's now able to do something because she was invincible through your epilogue and crossed up to the other side, and now she can play the game again. So she's got some options that you got to worry about. Next, obviously, she's got level 2 super, which is totally insane and just threatens all kinds of things off of all these hits. So once she has 2 meters, like we see right here, suddenly you have to play a lot different in neutral, because if she gets any hit whatsoever, it converts into this gigantic, like, refunded juggle decay combo that she can use to just blow you up. And finally, the big thing about Arizona is that at the end of the day, even with all these tools, she has to play proactively. She doesn't get magic unless she hits you with her rope. So in order to have magic for a lot of these options, she has to get in. So you know that at some point in time during the fight, she's going to be over here because she has to be. So because she has to play proactively, you can pay attention to that and try to take advantage. So in pressure, Arizona has like 1 billion lows. This is a low, this is a low, this is a low, this is a low, this is a low. Now she can't cancel the last couple, like the stomps, into overhead threats, but nonetheless, she's got like 5 lows that she can do in a single string. She's got plenty of lows, so no problems there. Her normals can lose to push blocks, as we showed earlier. These normals are stubby and just not quite push block stopping. And while she does have answers to that, because push block often puts her into range where her ropes will work, or where she can catch you if you don't respect stomps and that kind of thing. Nonetheless, you can push block this character, and there are a lot of buttons into a lot of other buttons that are push blockable and then punishable, so it's easy to bounce around your push block timings to make it so that she doesn't know when you're going to do it, and that is really important on defense, because once she knows where you're going to push block, that's the end. She's just going to hit you. Then for her defense, obviously she's got the fastest reversal super in the game. That thing is nuts. 3 frames startup, invincible, very powerful when used at close range, so even more powerful when used as part of a combo starter or a reversal, and less powerful when used as a whiff punish or a fireball punish. So just a great reversal in general, tons of damage, and she's got, of course, the armored headbutt that we talked about. Armor is great on defense. You don't want to have to deal with the powerful armor into wall splat, into take half your life in damage. It's just too good. And then, yeah, we already sort of talked about the projectile invulnerable low dash and the counter. I did want to talk a little bit more about Arizona's pressure. She is weak to absolute guard. She's not a fan of getting hit by that. There are a lot of situations where if you push block, she doesn't have the ability to both mix you up and deal with the push block at the same time. So if she does deal with it, you can often absolute guard the option that she chooses. And if she doesn't do that, then she might just whiff in front of your face, and suddenly you're just getting free hits. And then, obviously, her mix-up game is absolutely nuts. She's got short hop to stay in front. She's got a good cross-up in her JC that gets to the other side of you. She has a lot of buttons that hard knock down you right into the spot where short hop doesn't cross you up and full hop does. So she's got that. She's got a million lows. She's got an overhead that goes into a giant combo. It's less powerful than it used to be, but I mean, you look at the 722 damage non-counter hit starter. I don't think that Oleander has anything that does that much damage in one hit on a counter hit. So that move is insane. And then, of course, we sort of talked about this a little bit in the Oleander reference, but Arizona also has got a fairly powerful fuzzy guard break in the form of doing a jump in and then doing short hop JAJB. So if she forces you to block standing, she can get a full combo off of it. If she hits you with the first hit, then the move hits. So she can do a high-low mix-up on your block there. She can get a full conversion if you just get hit by it. The one problem that Arizona and most characters aside from Oleander have with her fuzzy guard break is that if the opponent just lets themselves get hit by the jump attack and you commit yourself to the fuzzy, it just whiffs. So if Oleander is crouching, then you can't do anything about it. You just have to accept that you hit with a jump in and then just totally whiffed your JA because it's just going to miss. And once you whiff the JA, you can't cancel into JB anymore. And once you do that, you've just whiffed a jump attack right in front of your opponent. Might be able to get a punish, or at the very least, you're definitely coming down in a bad spot where you might get trip guarded or something. So while you do have to be wary of that as a possibility, it is nonetheless an incredibly powerful tool because only a lunatic is going to be consistently or even semi-consistently intentionally crouching against your jump-ins. That's just a recipe to get hit with like ridiculous JC starters that delete your character. So even if you occasionally miss to them going for that option, a lot of times, if you just do your, the other half of the fuzzy guard setup instead of going for the jump attack, is to just go for the low attack. And the second that they've done that, you get the full combo anyway, right? And you get it off of a fairly good starter. That one jab at the beginning of the combo isn't great for your damage, but Arizona will survive, and you probably won't. So the fuzzy guard setup's also very good. Then. Yeah, with her great armor and dash options, her level 2 that can just, like, end worlds right there. Like, look at the JD that you get back off of that. It's basically almost negative an entire bar of juggle decay. And you can just get unbelievable combos off of that. The hit itself, obviously, does over 1,000 damage. Well, the double... The 2 meter super there does over 1,000 damage just by itself, so it's a chunky boy just into itself, and it's super scary. But since she only can get magic by getting hits, you can try to take a lot of advantage of that. So what do I think that we should do while we're here at the beginning of round start? Well, you still have a very powerful dash forward 6A starter. Arizona, again, does not have a lot of options that hit you from here, and the only one she has is 12 frames of startup, and you beat that if you time the dash forward jab perfectly, I believe, because the jab is only 5 frames, and the dash forward that you need is only a few frames before that, so you've got a decent chunk of time to try to just catch the Arizona outright at the beginning of the round start, so you can try to check any really aggressive approaches and still beat out the one thing she has that can hit you from round start. So that's really good. It also beats dash back rope because your jab recovers faster than her rope does. So even if she dashes back enough that rope is going to miss, or sorry, that your jab is going to miss her, which is not necessarily true. You're also going to take away her ability to like round start, backdash, and then press D on you. She's not going to be able to do that, which is very important. You don't want her to be feeling comfortable doing this. That's not good. That's not where you want to be. Just round start, Arizona has magic is not the place to be. So you can stop a lot of her aggressive approaches at round start with the jab, and also try to prevent her from getting magic. So I think that's a powerful one. I think that in this matchup, jump back on round start, which is good against some characters, is absolutely terrible here. If she calls you out with 4D, that is just a huge starter into however much magic she feels like. You have to be very careful. Similarly, TK Fireball, while usable here, if you're really low to the ground like that, will lose if you go too high up. So if you're going up here, that just loses for sure. Even something that might hit like her head, like that one, is probably a little too high. Like you might just get clipped by the rope. You don't want that. So really have to be tight if you want a TK Fireball on round start. I do think that backdash is a solid option. It's going to get you out of stomp range. She doesn't have any magic to punish your backdashes with crazy like headbutt reads or anything yet. So you can backdash and try to create a little bit of space. As much as Arizona does have some options here, including her rope, that is definitely a read, and you can get into positions where the backdash is going to save you from it, or where she's going to try to catch where you are instead of where you're going to be. So she might backdash D as well, and then whiff, and then suddenly you're in a really good spot because she's missing ropes from half screen. And in addition, I do think that jumping forward is actually a decent option here as well. Arizona does have a very strong anti-air, especially in a position like this where she can 6A you. But you take away her ability to just sweep you out away with a command throw out of the air. And Oleander has got a whole bunch of good options in the air that Arizona doesn't. So you can more easily play a game where you aren't very committal there. Yes, double jump does have some frames of vulnerability now, but for the most part, this is still incredibly powerful and allows you for all kinds of interesting and different options that might get you out of rope setups and such. So I think that jumping forward is also an option. I don't think it should be the main option. I think that like pressing immediately and trying to stop pressure immediately, or trying to back away and gain space, are your best options. But peppering this in so that she doesn't become comfortable, I think, is super important. Next, we're going to have the mid game. So the mid game is probably going to look one of two ways. It's either going to look an awful lot like this, which is probably the best you can hope for. And this is where you want, because if Arizona doesn't have 2 meters, her reversal super is actually not super scary. It doesn't even really give her a good setup afterwards, because she flies all the way across the screen, but you don't. So it really just resets things to neutral. So she doesn't really want to throw away her incredible comeback power of having 2 meters on just kind of getting out with a reversal situation. So you're actually in a good spot here. Obviously, from around here, you want to start worrying about rope, and you also want to start worrying about stomp. So there's this little like donut around her where like you win from like here to right about here-ish. And then from here to right about here, you're just losing because Arizona's got stomp and rope, and you don't have any buttons that contest that. And then from right about here, you're winning again, because even if you can't quite check with jab, you do have a bunch of normals that'll catch her there. Even if she's trying to backdash away and then do rope, you might be able to sweep her out from under her feet there or something else. Check her with a 6B if she's trying to backdash and push a button. So now she's got to commit to be able to threaten you, whereas when you're around this area, she can just throw out stomp, she can just throw out rope, it'll just hit you if you're not paying attention. From here, Arizona's got a good dash, but she's got terrible buttons, so I would feel pretty confident from around here. It's basically round start position. Yeah, look at that. Like we switched to round start, and I don't think we moved. This barely, but it does, I think, favor Oleander a little bit, because you can again be in a position where if you dash forward and push a button, you can press and beat out the Arizona stomps. You get past the ropes. She's too stubby to hit you with any of her normals from there. The dash forward normals are kind of stubby, and she has to commit to them more than you do here with your also very fast dash startup, but way better normal range. So I think that from there she's much better, and then you get to about here, and Arizona just wins again. So this is a very interesting layered neutral game, in my opinion, and middle game in general, in my opinion, because there's a lot of ranges that change, right? Like Arizona good, Oleander good, Arizona good, Oleander good. So there's a lot of little like donuts that you have to think of in this matchup. There's a lot of circles that you have to decide whether you want to move in of and move out of. And that's kind of the 50-50 game that you play against Arizona in neutral. If she guesses right which zone you're going to try to get into or get out of, she'll be able to hit you with a stomp or a rope. But if she guesses wrong, then she has to use a much more committal option to catch your jump here than you do to jump in with JC here. That's a very powerful button. If she guesses wrong, you're going to dunk her for a huge amount of damage. And one of those buttons is more committal on whiff than the other. So yeah, it's definitely a layered middle game where you either want to be here or like here. And those are kind of the spots where Oleander can play neutral best and has the best advantages. She can obviously zone from further away. She can pretty easily play neutral with better buttons from around here. But over here, she is actually losing because her normals don't hit and Arizona's rope does, so you got to be very careful. And from here, Arizona's frames on buttons are just way better. She's able to scrap so much more than Oleander can. So, yeah, I think that it's just this interesting dance of trying to stay in the ranges where you're good, call your opponent out for being in the ranges where they are good, or you're trying to get out of the ranges where they are bad, and whoever wins that dance gets to start their game plan. Then finally, we've got end game. Now, if you add an end game, you're probably looking a little bit more like this, where both players have got a good resource. Obviously, from here, Oleander is looking to just kind of catch you because you exist in neutral at some point in time, and then go into Fred. Arizona does not have a lot of great answers against Fred. She's kind of just got to deal with it. She's not very capable of staying in the air or anything like Tianhua, so Oleander can just get in whenever she wants to with teleport into Fred button, and then suddenly Arizona's just got to deal with that. She can't really reversal as easily. She does have the best reversal to try with, but Oleander often doesn't really have to put herself out there. So the biggest thing you're looking for here is like a magic dash through to beat out the Fred button, because it'll go through it because it's a projectile. And then if she can sneak her way out of the corner with a magic dash or something, that's really good, because now she's able to at least try to play. And of course, you just, as Oleander, are really, like, both of you just are trying not to get touched, because if the Arizona touches you here with 2 meters, it's pretty much the same thing. It's GG's. Whoever hits the other person first in this situation usually wins, because it's going to be a lot of damage from Fred into really oppressive Fred pressure. And if Arizona gets the hit, it's going to be an unbelievable amount of damage into a crazy mix-up. So really, the caution and paying attention to resources is the big end game plan here. If the Arizona can catch you with, say, Stomp, you want to really start thinking about that from full screen here, just to make sure that you don't like lose instantaneously to, full screen Stomp into super, into, double super, 2 meters, level 2, and you just get deleted from here. You want to be careful, of course, about staying in the ranges and finding the pieces of the onion that you're better at fighting with. Your favorite flavors of Gobstopper need to be where you are as much as possible. And then, of course, just paying attention to Arizona's capability of just reversaling out of stuff. So a lot of Oleander's moves wind up being minus, and so at certain ranges, she can't throw out like sweep into fireball anymore, because there'll be a gap and then Arizona can just hit it. So you probably want to start weaving in some more teleports, because teleport will allow Oleander to go through the super, because the super is just so darn fast that her invincibility frames will still like allow her to get through the whole thing, and Arizona will just blast by. So more teleport, more cautious play, paying attention to whether or not you have enough meter to cross canter and still have like a threat of Fred. So if you're at like 2.5 meters, then obviously you can do it. But even if you're at like 2 and like a third meters, you can probably still get away with one cross canter, trying to stop the pressure and make it so that Arizona doesn't get into crazy level 2 mode. And the next time you get a hit, you'll still be able to go directly into Fred. So there's a lot of like paying attention to resources and being cautious and resource management at the end of the game. So I think that this particular matchup plays like a really enjoyable game when you're at a better level than I am, because once you can actually enact this game plan, there's a lot of interesting intricacies at different areas of the screen. Arizona's got the speed to get in more quickly, but Oleander has got the tools to keep her out. Got to pay attention to whether or not you're just going to get deleted by either of these characters if you get touched. You have to pay attention to what magic options they have. Can they make stuff safe that you weren't thinking they could make safe by using the power of magic to disappear, go behind you so that you miss your moves or whatever. So it's a really engaging gameplay, and I think that it might be one of the more enjoyable matchups to play against because it's quite back and forth. So tomorrow we will be continuing on, and I believe Paprika is next. That or Palm? I'll have to look and see. I'm not super good on this side of the random select button, but whichever character it is, we'll be going over the game plan for that character tomorrow, one of the P's, and I hope to see you there.